Real estate investing can bring big reward and big risks. So know your risks. Welcome to the Real Estate Risk Report, the show for real-world insight on real estate investment risk. Now, here's your host, Lance Pederson.
Thank you for joining the Real Estate Risk Report. I'm your host, as always, Lance Pederson. So today I have with me Lacey Lewis with Lynn Development. How you doing, Lacey?
Doing well, Lance. Doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So why don't you share with us a bit about how you got into the real estate business? And I know you've sort of sat in many seats when it comes to sort of real estate over the years, and now you're doing building homes in the Houston market. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But I was curious as to how one kind of makes their journey along the way and what attracted them to real estate.
I got into real estate about 14 years ago. I started as a loan officer. Did that for 2 years until, I guess about '08. Yeah, that's when the implosion of all the loans, all the financing subprime market kind of went to crap. And from there, I transitioned into being a real estate agent. I had experience. I was working with a bunch of investors during my time as a loan officer. So transitioning into agent when that happened, kind of because I had investor background, kind of helped me transition and go smoothly, and it went pretty well. And then I got when I became an agent, I worked with developers as well. So I was the salesperson in a luxury high-rise condominium. I also work with a lot of builders, helping buyers find new construction. I did that for maybe 6 years and decided to get my broker's license. And once I got my broker's license, started my Central Properties company, and then always wanted to do development. Always. I always wanted to build for the specific buyer, for the pains they have, for the things big developers didn't kind of get. And once I got the opportunity, I hired a general contractor for my first project. I was a developer, hired a general contractor, and decided on my next project, like I would be the GC as well because I wanted a specific product finish, for the buyer. And I couldn't get that with hiring a general contractor. So I did it myself, and here we are, moving along.
Yeah. So when you decided to make that jump to becoming a general contractor, what was that process like? Because in all these cases, you have to, get your license. You have to take courses and classes. And I mean, there's more to it than just deciding to be a GC, right? You've got to.
Yeah. In Texas, you don't need a license to be a general contractor per se. There's a lot of inspections and process, things to kind of make sure the home is, up to code. But you don't need a license. So for me to get into it, being a general contractor, the hardest part or the most challenging part was learning how to manage the process of construction. And I learned that through watching the general contractor I hired for the first project. And he also explained to me and taught me the process as well. And once that happened, I kind of told him from the beginning, I wanted to do this myself, and learned from him and did my first project. And it turned out exactly the way I wanted. It wasn't like the first one, but the second one turned out exactly the way I wanted, because it's kind of hard to get exactly what you want through another person, And so, and that was my transitioning into a general contractor. So I was already a licensed broker.
Yeah.
But there was no licensing process for GCing here in Texas.
Got it. And you mentioned too that when you were an agent, that you felt like, the home buyers weren't getting what they wanted. So, what were the sort of little things that you felt that they were saying they wanted that they couldn't find in homes that were on the market?
At the time, and even today, I guess you have buyers who want certain features in a home, and those features are usually associated with a higher price point. So what I did was I looked at what was the most important things and kept it in the price point um, that was much lower than the higher price point that you get everything you want.
Yeah.
Some of the features is very basic. Some high ceilings, open floor plan. I have a thing with stairs being too narrow, so I widen my stairs. Um, I have the one level island, just things that give you that feel that it might be a little bit more expensive than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Nice open showers, the double tub and the standalone shower and stuff like that. Just the features that give that modern luxury feel.
Yeah. No, I think that is what you see a lot of. It's just everyone sort of, they go to that price point, like you said, and they just then everything is sort of, lower quality across the board. I mean, obviously, my hunch is that, they look at it like higher margins. People might be willing to they make a little more money on those deals, but
Yeah.
right, like you add a few of those extra little things, people are, they're that product's going to move. I think right now, and I guess a good segue, sort of the Houston market. I saw something the other day. It was in Wall Street Journal, I think this weekend, talking about how Houston was one of the top, spots in the country where, it's becoming sort of a bunch of these build to rent and, kind of the rental movement, right? Of people not being able to, afford buying homes and a nation of renters, but the rents have increased like 20% or something over the last few years. And so since you've been, in the market, is there particular, I mean, Houston's obviously a very large city, but are there particular neighborhoods or areas that you are looking to develop in, and I know you do have sort of there's some social impact side of what you do, beyond just the, building houses and giving people what they want, but maybe just shed a little light on sort of the Houston market, where you in particular are at in the market, and what you're seeing down there.
Sure. Okay. Well, as you mentioned, Houston is a big city. And what we do is, I guess, technical term for it is infilled residential development. So the infill lots are in the urban communities. And these vacant lots are just sitting there, some of them, trees, weeds. It's not a good environmental thing for the community. So we focus right now at the moment near the medical center, and Houston has a loop. So inside that loop is a few urban communities that have the infilled development opportunities. And our approach is to find a specific area that can match the price point that we're attracting the buyers, and build on the vacant lots. And for the social impact, it has a great deal because it increases the tax volume for the city and the community. It cleans up the vacant lots. It makes it safer. And for me, growing up in an urban community, I saw how, that wasn't a good thing for anyone in the community. And I didn't realize it until I started building, like, wow, I'm really making a difference. And I found the purpose in what I was doing and what I'm doing. And it didn't start like that. Honestly, it didn't start like that. I saw an opportunity to develop, and it was where it is in the urban city, in the urban communities. But along with that, I started to realize that, once neighbors saw what I was doing and other builders, they're like, wow, this is really good that you guys are, kind of cleaning this up. This lot has been empty for 5 years, and it started making me feel a lot better about what I was doing instead of just building a house, and just go into the next lot.
Yeah.
So that the social impact for me is a really, really big thing, and it keeps me going because I see the faces, I see the people in the community, how it makes them feel good.
Yeah. So in these cases, do you have like, okay, you've got these neighborhoods around, because I've heard that the medical facilities in Houston are based world class.
Right.
Right. So like, it's not to overstate that. It's not just some random hospital, right? These are places where, from what I've heard, is that, foreign kings, are sending their family
Right.
members, right, to receive treatment.
Yeah.
But it's a huge draw, obviously, for employment and those sorts of things as well. So for you, when you're out there looking at it, are you sort of identifying you've got all these vacant lots on some spreadsheet or something, and how do you go about getting a hold of it? These all just on RMLS, you can just find lots and go buy them, or is there what is that process that you have to go through to to identify the owner? Or I was just curious. A buddy of mine kind of used the same strategy here in Portland, right? And you've got the urban growth boundary, and it's only so many things can be built inside of it. So you start. A lot of these guys done tear downs though, right? They go and basically convince someone that hey, I'll buy this house from you, and then they tear it down and build on it. It sounds like you're more looking for vacant lots, or maybe you're doing some of that too, where you have to just tear down super old houses. Or I'm just curious how do you do that acquisition strategy and figuring out how to get a hold of dirt at the right price and those things.
Right. Sure. So for us at the moment, there's multiple ways. It can be through MLS. There's a lot of vacant lots throughout the city. Actually, I think it's a hyper vacancy, what they consider, because it's over 20% of the city, of the community, where there's vacant lots. So there's always lots that are vacant. Finding the owners can be a challenge, but typically we lean on the multiple listing service, MLS, because we're brokers. So we can search them out based on our comps from homes that we've sold. So it's kind of like we create a comp and then we build around it. So we look for vacant lots that owners want to sell, that are close to what we've already established, the price point. Mm-hmm. I haven't done had to do any tear downs because there's so much opportunity with vacant lots. And also another way we find lots are from owners in the area. They see us build and they say, hey, I have a lot over here. I have a family member that has a lot there. And those are typically the way, but I like to stay with the MLS more so, because if it's on MLS, the title's been pulled, liens have been removed. So that's stuff that we don't have to do. Mm-hmm. If we find a vacant lot from an owner, there may be some time they're working on clearing that lot of any liens or encumbrances. So we kind of use both, but we don't have to do any tear downs or rehabs or anything, because the opportunity is pretty huge. We also have the redevelopment authorities. There's probably 3 in the Houston area, and they own hundreds of vacant lots. So we're in the process of purchasing lots from them to build affordable housing at that mid to low affordable price point for Texas.
And then, so when it comes to, we'll get sort of the construction process and those things in a second here, but I'm just curious as to the exit strategy on these. So these are the price point for the homes you're building is what, 200, 300?
Right. Under 300. I would say mid to high twos.
Mid to high twos.
Mid to high twos. Yep.
Then you're selling to, given the article came out this weekend of just all of the activity of, big institutional investors buying up the stuff and turning it into rentals. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that, or when you're building something, you're assuming you're going to sell it to someone who's going to buy it from the community and live in it? Is that sort of I'm just curious what would happen if one of those institutional buyers showed up your door and said, "I'll give you 300. I'll give you 300 for this." Are you going to say no, or you gonna be like, "No, I'd rather it be an owner occupied, purchaser"?
I haven't had that yet. Most of the larger institutional buyers, as you're mentioning, the rent are on the suburbs. They build a whole community of rentals now in Houston. For us, we have buyers actually sometimes before we start construction. And most definitely during the first 30 days, I put it on MLS, show photos from a completed project, and I have a contract. And that's been the case for every home we've built thus far.
So it sounds like there's an abundance of lots, and you've got the development authorities are sort of they want to see more of this activity. Is that accurate?
Yes.
They wish that this morning there were 20 Laceys that woke up and decided to is that accurate?
Yes, it is accurate, because it doesn't do well for the community, having a vacant lots. And if this authority is sitting on, hundreds of lots, and then they need to sell them. They need to find a way to get those lots filled, because it does nothing for the community. So the authority that we're working with now is actually, we're in the process of being one of the builders that they sell their lots to. Mm-hmm. And I think every authority does this. Once they identify an infill developer, they may reach out to them, or that developer may be reaching out to the authority to have access to these lots, because also the land here is it's going up like crazy. And we're by the medical center. As you was talking about the medical center, it's the largest medical center in the world. And the land that's closer to the lots that are closer to the medical center, of course, are more expensive. And as you spread out in the urban community, it's all starting to be the same across the board, because you have the medical center, the arena, then they have outside the 610 loop. So when you're inside the 610 loop, it's a certain price point, but outside it's a little lower. Now it's all starting to even out on a higher side rather than the lower side. So the land is expensive. And then when you don't purchase it from a development or redevelopment authority, you have to pay market value, more than likely.
Yeah. So
the goal is to get the land at a price where we can sell the home at a more affordable price point.
Yeah. So they're basically saying, okay, we're willing to sell this land to you for less than market, but the agreement that you're coming to is that also means that you're going to sell it for less, right? Like, yes, make it so it goes back to that.
Yes.
That's really what your strategy is. I mean, your strategy is, hey, you've always wanted to be a developer. You get to be a developer. You realize on this journey that you can do what you wanted to do while helping your community.
Correct. That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And so how big are these, like the average lot size? Like I'm just curious. What would that be? It's like, how big are these lots? Is this basically the houses are, just give me a little more color on kind of like what this looks like. Are these 2-story townhome type things, or it's just single family stuff
right.
They have yards, or does it just differ depending upon what neighborhood you're in?
No, the lots typically are going to be 5,000 square feet. So 50 across the front and 100 deep. That's the typical size lot. So what's happening with these lots, some builders build where they build and have the entire lot for that house. Some builders separate or split those lots, which we call replatting. And the homes, either way, the homes are going to be, from 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. The homes we build are 2 stories. Our first project was taking one lot and turning it into 2. But our strategy now is leaning more towards using the entire lot. If it's 5,000 square feet, that's going to be for the new buyer. So they're 2-story, 1,800 square feet, the ones that we typically build. And going back to what you were saying, the builders who just, it's a machine, they just build it and just build it. So what happens with buyers that go there, they don't have many options when they go to subdivisions like that. And I realized that when I started building, they didn't have many options because all the builders built 1-story. So now our focus has always been the 2-story townhome style single family homes. 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, open floor plan, high ceilings, a full size yard. All of them have full size yards. So if you're thinking 40 by 50 yards. So they're really, really nice homes. And like I said, for our builder, our product is Central Homes, and that's the company I started. So we have Lynn Development, then Lynn Development is developer for Central Homes, a builder, and Central Homes sells the home, and that's our product line. And we have a product that is a brand basically in the subdivisions, and we stand out because of the finishes we do and the finishes we give the buyers and the thought process and what we're designing for the buyer. So yeah, they're full size homes, nice size, full size lots. All of them have yards, and that's it basically.
Yeah. So in these communities, then, I mean, your objective is where Central Homes becomes this sort of known brand. And if I live in that community, I mean, this is perfect world for you, right? Is that they learn about, hey, that house that you just walked by that Lacey just put up and Central Homes put up, like, we want him doing more of those because I'd like to buy one of those Central Homes.
Exactly. And it put us in a position to, like, we stand out. Honestly, we stand out. And that's the goal, is to have a Central Home throughout the community, because what we also do is we have a cleanup initiative. So for every home we build, we work on cleaning up the surrounding vacant lots, whether we own them or not. We try to contact the owners to kind of give them some insight, because I'm an agent, I'm a broker as well. And my nature is to teach the owners. I'm not trying to just buy your lot. I want to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We'll clean up the lot for you if you're having a hard time to do it. Because what we want to do is make sure the community looks well, it looks good and clean, especially when we build a home, because buyers are coming in. So, we're very specific on the lots that we buy based on that immediate neighborhood. And there's always lots to clean or to, remove debris. So with what we're doing is cleaning up and building at the same time. So Central Homes is known for that brand, stand out, beautiful home, and they also clean up the community.
Yeah, no, that's great. So kind of shifting gears a bit, I mean, from an outsider, once again, looking in, it seems that, Houston, in hurricanes and flooding and, these sorts of things, in terms of, that's just sort of the impression you get. Climate change is going to, there's leading to more flooding and hurricanes and whatnot. How does that impact, like, the areas that you're developing in, or is that sort of overblown as well, that every hurricane that rolls through basically just wipes the whole city out? That's how it seems like it's portrayed in the news, but just
right
what it's like, a guy who's lived in Houston for a really long time.
No, there's certain areas that are prone to flooding, and Houston is in the process now of I guess the infrastructure for retention to keep the water away from those areas that seem to flood every time it rains. Our area particular area, which is medical center. It's called Sunnyside. There, it's not a flood. We're not in a flood zone, but we're close to the flood zone. But every rain doesn't flood out Houston totally.
Yeah.
So, for the homes being built, the city is always changing to adjust to the previous storm. They have us build the homes higher.
Mm-hmm.
We have inspections for windstorm, which it makes sure the home stands. So because we're in an area that gets a lot of rain and tornadoes, we have to build accordingly. But it's every place is not like flooded out. We don't go down canoes and every time it rains. So for us, for our particular area right now in Sunnyside, it doesn't cause a problem. The rain doesn't cause a problem.
Yeah. I mean, this is the real estate risk report, so we got to talk about the risks. I mean, it's sort of the, it can be one of the things. Obviously, you go under construction, and if everything gets sort of ruined, and that can lead to problems. But I figured that was the case. But I think it's important to note, that's not everywhere around there. Certain places are more prone than others. But how about on the, like, for you then? It seems like there's an abundance of opportunity. What is the constraint? Is it equity capital, people's willingness to, right? Because in Portland, obviously, that became a thing where they all came in because it was, you couldn't find lots because everyone was fighting to buy them. It sounds to me that in this case, it's sort of the abundance of lots sort of points to the fact that people are finding greater, more profitable opportunities in the suburbs. If I'm just, that's how I'm reading this. Is that accurate? And then if so, is for you, then it's really an equity capital becomes the constraint to taking advantage of this opportunity. And once again, to further the social impact, the greater cause and purpose of helping, clean up some of these neighborhoods. And is that accurate?
To a certain degree, it is the capital at some point, kind of, but I think more so than that is removing the stigma of the urban community of where we build. And also at the same time, shedding light to buyers about where we're building. There's several times that I've had buyers walk through my homes and say, "Oh, I didn't know they were doing this out here." And so advertising and letting people know that we're building here, is one of the things that kind of slows down, if you will, slows down the process, because not a lot of individuals know that there's new construction, because everyone thinks of new construction being in the suburbs, or if it is in the urban cities, the price point. So we have a price point, we have a buyer we have to reach to tell them about where we're building. So capital, yes, to a certain degree, but also the knowledge of what we're doing in the urban community and removing the stigma of maybe a not so desirable community.
Got it. And they believe that it's, I mean, so this is the big issue. Like, this happened in Portland too. I mean, like, developers saw the opportunity to develop in North Portland or whatever, and then they came in and then they started to build nice homes, just like you, right? Similar story. Right. And now all of a sudden they're pricing out all of the people who were from the community, right? And now, it changed the neighborhood entirely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you balance that? Like, how does this work out? I mean, because I think if you had it your way, right, like it would strengthen these communities it wouldn't take the community away from the people that have always lived in that area, right?
Right.
Meaning, because like the article said yesterday, the price is just going up, 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 up.
Yeah.
right? So if you do this now, all of a sudden, I'm assuming that people, if they had their way, they'd rather live in an affordable home closer to downtown Houston. And once again, I could be wrong there, but that's kind of what I think I'm hearing you say, is that if you could live in Sunnyside, be near the medical facility and have an affordable home, that's nice and new, and in a community that's like, that seems like that's what people would want. You're saying that they don't think it's possible, or they're afraid that it will drive people out, or?
Well, are you referring to buyers coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that if you said there's a stigma. So if all of a sudden you run into me and you educate me and tell me that, no, you can get a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath with a yard, really nice house, and live near the medical facility, it's not going to flood. You're telling me all these great things, and I can do so for under 300 grand. I'm going, sign me up. So now if I come out of the suburbs, or people move from California to Houston, whatever, and start moving in there, right? Like, wouldn't the home prices then start to go up? And therefore it might price out people who, the whole reason why you try, because there's that affordability thing, right? Like that's the trick here, right? You're trying to, it's about keeping it affordable. Right.
That is, you're correct. You're right. The prices in Houston are, again, it's going up. It's just every week, every month it's going up. So there is a balance there, and it comes in where purchasing the land. I think the land is the key. And that's why for us as a company, as Land Development, is to source and locate these homes, or I'm sorry, vacant lots that we can purchase from the redevelopment areas, because we're in line with what we're trying to do. Now, not every builder wants to build affordable housing. They're in it for profit. And I think we're all in it for monetary purposes, but there's also, like you said, the community, the urban community, and individuals and people who want to live in the area that they grew up in. For me personally, I feel like, gentrification is the term of pricing things, the properties higher than the community can afford, the owners and people of color, them not being able to afford it. It's only so much we can do. Prices are still going up, and builders are building, and materials going up. There's a balance, but there's only so much we can do to keep that from happening, which is a debate as well.
Yep.
Trying to find that balance. And I think one of the key things to that is finding the land and purchasing at a point that makes it profitable, or having enough projects going where you still can price it and still be profitable over the quantity.
Yeah.
Of the amount of homes you're building.
Yeah.
And that's the same way they're doing in the suburbs. They build 100 homes. They can price it, at a point where, okay, well, it's X amount of dollars on each home. I'm okay with that. So that's the approach we plan to take as well. Prices keep going up, land keeps going up, material keeps going up. So our thought is, okay, well, instead of 10 homes this year, let's push to do 30. And we build 30 homes. There's always buyers. Again, MLS, we're brokers. We have the buyers lined up. And this way we can, keep the prices affordable and get buyers in and just repeat the process.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's, that's where I've always, I think the point is, like, it's sometimes the for-profit motive is actually easier to solve for, I guess, is where I was just going, right? Like, I applaud guys like yourself who, it's part of the deal is it's for-profit, for purpose, right? Meaning that there's more to it than just making money, right? But of course, that's the funny thing about that, right? Is that people want to know that, well, if you're going to do it, you're still going to, be profitable. So we want our cake and eat it too. And that's obviously, that's the holy grail. So it does seem like it's that the social impact piece of it is the harder part to solve for, right? It's complicated. There's lots of moving parts. So if you went in there and you just didn't, that's what I mean. Like, you look at this and say, well, I can strike this deal with the redevelopment corp. I can get the lots at a lower amount, right? So I can buy them the cheaper land and I can go in there and do that. Let's just say that you didn't care about the social impact side of it. You went and just said what needed to be said. And they said, okay, we'll get them off our hands. And at least that first generation of buyers of these homes, you could do that, and you could you could buy 60 of those, you could do whatever, you could maximize the profit by doing that. And you get out, and it's not, the gentrification problem is not your problem, right? Because you went in there and did that. You created the opportunity now, which is then the price is going to go up and it's going to push people out that can't afford them. Right. That usually happens on the second go around as that sort of takes hold. So it's just, I'm always curious to hear how guys like you, it definitely seems like it's a conflict that you have to deal with.
It is. I agree. And there's other areas, because well, let me say this. There's other areas where we have developers who are focused on the same thing I'm focused on. And that is to not push anyone out of the neighborhood. So what they have is a component of rentals. You can keep the residents in by the rental rates, and you can keep them in by the new construction selling rate. But it's going to increase, but I think it's important to have a part of your strategy to play towards making sure everyone can afford. Not to say that you can't price a home. Like, you might have a project where it's just a big house, and you have to price it at a certain point. But then there should also be a part where you're saying, okay, I'm going to dedicate this portion of what we're doing to not removing or displacing anyone from the community. Yep. And that's very important. I think there's, it's very personal to me, because I grew up in, the urban community. And it was a time when there was no new construction, so you have the other side where there's no new construction, values are not going up. Yeah. So how playing that game, you're right. You have to think about that, but on the other side of the fence, they have to look at us and say, okay, well, I understand why, you're doing that and you're pricing it where it is, because it's just economics. You don't want your home or your value of your land to stay the same. And if it doesn't increase, then there's no new residents coming in. So it's a juggling act.
Yeah, it is. And I certainly don't have the answers, right? And that's where, but I think it's important to point out, right, is that for an investor, and this is what it comes down to, this is what I was just getting at, right, is that there's all these initiatives and policies like the opportunity zones and all these things that the politicians try to put in place, right, to encourage, so to encourage some of these social impact things or the revitalization of communities, et cetera, which on its face is great, right? But when you get down to it, right, more often than not, the ugly side of these things is that it's people sit there and say, oh, that's cute, that's great. But then are they going to put their money to it? Right. And that's just what I've seen, is where you've got these people that are out there trying to really solve for both, right? Like profit and purpose. And it for me, it's just to watch the behavior then is that it seems like the very same people then turn around and always choose the sole for-profit motive. Right. And so it's just, they're not putting their money where their mouth is and doing it. So I just think that this is what it's about, right? It's not about, we started out, right? Like, you wanted to be the developer, like that interests you. You want to build things, you want to do whatever. And then along the way, you realize that there was more to it than that. Right. And I think that that's the whole thing. And that's why I'm trying to, ask these very specific, because once again, I don't know Houston I've been in the airport, right? Like
Right.
I walked outside for a second and I was like, whoa, my God, this is the most humid thing I've ever, like, I don't know anything about it. Right.
Right.
I don't know what that community's like. I don't know who those people are. And because I don't see them and I don't experience it, it's easy for me to sort of just wrap up this podcast with you and go about my own business. Right.
Right.
And I think that's with all these things. So that's why I hit on these things. Like you can make a difference, right? You can put your capital to work and have it generate a good return for you, while also have it, impact people's lives and communities. And, and unfortunately, the number of guys that woke up this morning that really are trying to figure out how to do both is not enough, in my opinion, right? Guys and gals. It's just, there's just not enough people that are doing that. And for us to wait for our government and the government authorities and whatever to sort of solve it for us, it just seems like we're going to be waiting a really long time. So that's what I want to get to with you. I know it is your heart. I know that you care about making an impact and changing these communities. And so I think it's about getting that story out there that this does change people's lives, and it does change communities. I know for most of us, it sort of doesn't make sense, because in our neighborhoods, there's not a bunch of vacant lots that are overgrown and, have, whatever, like I can't even picture it in my mind. Right. Because everything where I live is completely built and there's a house on every lot. Right. So it's just important, I think, to get that word out. So thank you for sharing all that.
I appreciate it. And I agree with you. I don't think there's enough of us individual or builders trying to tackle this. And it's an issue across the United States, urban communities and the inequality of city, efforts to make a change. And that was, after my first project, the redevelopment areas, they're really tough, or they try to be extremely careful, and which delays the entire process, and sometimes I don't understand the thought process of some of these authorities. And that's what we're trying to get into and sit down with the authorities and say, look, if you have this many lots, then, and you see a builder doing a good project, then, release the lots, pull them in and have a dedicated team to just focus on filling these lots, so the for-profit guys, that's good, but I mean, that's what they do. And we're looking for investors. We're looking for partners who want to make a change, and who want to make profit and make a change in the community.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about what you're up to and how to get involved?
Well, they can easily go to the website, which is www.lindevelopment.com. That's LIN as in Nancy, development.com. And everything is on there, A to Z, ebooks. Set up a call with me if you want. So that if they want more information, that's where they can find us. lindevelopment.com.
Yeah. And Lynn Development and Lacey are members of the Veravest Sponsor Network. So my day job is over at Veravest, and we're proud to have you guys as members and believe in what you're doing. And so, yeah, it's good stuff. Keep up the good fight, Lacey. And thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Hey, Lance, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. You guys have been helpful from day one. I really, really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to a long relationship with Veravest and the investors, and being transparent.
Yep, definitely. All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
You too.